Okay, so let's go over think question number one for Frederick Douglass. As you can see, I have Study Sync open, and I have it open to the first think question. So I wanted to model what you could do if you chose to. So what you can do is you can click here, the split screen mode. And when you do that, it puts the text on the left, and then you can type your answer on the right. Don't worry, I'm not going to submit it here. After I'm done, I'm going to copy and paste it onto my Google Doc. Okay, so let's bring my camera back. There it is. All right, so the first question asks, identify textual evidence from the excerpt that reveals why learning to read was so important to Frederick Douglass when he was a boy. Okay, so the first thing that we need to remember is that we're going to answer this question using the RACES model. And the first part of RACES is restate the question. So the question is asking, why was learning to read so important to Frederick Douglass when he was a boy? So let's write that. Learning to read was so important to Frederick Douglass as a boy. Now, of course, we could then go on to do the A part, which is answer. And we could do it in the same question, but I'm satisfied with this as a restatement, so I'm going to leave it the way it is. Learning to read was so important to Frederick Douglass as a boy. Now let's answer it. Why was it important? So we're going to have to find evidence from the text. So we can scan through the text over here, and at the beginning, he says, the plan which I adopted and the only one which I was most successful. So when I read this, he says, the one by which I was most successful. Well, that infers that he's had other plans and that he's tried other plans, and this one was the most successful. And so we can understand from this line that he is motivated and determined to read, and he's not going to give up. So that's the evidence that I'm going to use. So I'm going to answer it. Reading was so important to him because learning to read for slaves was against the law. Now, I know that I've used my background knowledge to get that part of the answer, but it is also in the text. It was in the introductory part that we read. So I'm going to use that background knowledge that I have to do that, and then I'm going to use this evidence. Now I'm going to see if I can copy and paste it. Ooh, I can. So I'm going to go ahead and wrote, he wrote, and I'm going to paste my answer there. Let's see. Ooh. No, that's not what I wanted. Where did that come from? Okay, so it might not let me copy and paste. So I'm just going to go ahead and write it. The plan which I adopted, and the one by which I was most successful. Now, I could continue to write the entire quote, but this is the part to me that shows his determination. So I'm going to stop there. And I'm going to explain it now. The C was cite the evidence, which we did. And now the E is I'm going to explain my evidence. So I'm going to explain his use of the term most successful shows that he had many plans that he tried. Until he finally found this successful way to learn to read. And so then I answered. I explained it. And so in order to have a really good paragraph, we're going to go ahead and put another piece of evidence. So in addition, so now we have to find more evidence. of why he was so why it was so important for him to learn to read. Um, so I'm scanning now. I found this bread with me. Oh, here we go. So when he talks about the bread, he gives the student. I'm sorry. He gives the white children who are poor in his area bread, and to him he compares the giving of the food bread to receiving the bread of knowledge, which to him was like food for the soul. So that's what I'm going to use as my evidence. So I'm going to go ahead and start typing again. In addition, he uses bread to feed the poor white children in his neighborhood in exchange for reading lessons. He stated, so now I'm going to get my evidence. So the evidence is over here. I'm going to write this quote. This bread, this bread, I use to bestow upon the hungry little urchins who, in return, would give me that more valuable bread of knowledge. So now I'm going to explain this quote again. The food bread is in return paid for with knowledge, or food for his soul. Finally, I'm going to have my summary sentence. Mr. Douglas's determination to learn to read shows why it was so important for him to finally learn to read, despite the laws forbidding it. Okay, so now we have a really nice paragraph that follows the rule of the RACECES format. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to, I've already set up a document. There's thing question 1, and I'm going to go ahead and paste my answer. I'm going to go ahead and indent it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then let's see if I can bring my camera back. And then the next thing I'm going to do is, you know that I like to have my quotes highlighted, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight the quotes, and there you have it. Now the last thing that I want to do is I would like to show you the book answer. So I'm going to read it to you very quickly. It was illegal to teach slaves to read, and anyone caught doing so was severely punished. In the first sentence, Douglas writes, "The plan which I adopted, and the one by which I was most successful, was that of making friends of all the little white boys whom I met on the street." This suggests that Douglas developed and tried out more than one plan before settling on the one that was the most successful, which supports the idea that he put a lot of thought and effort into the plan that he finally used. This also shows how determined he was. Later, Douglas writes, "This bread I used to bestow upon the hungry little urchins who, in return, would give that more valuable bread of knowledge." For Douglas, knowledge is even more important than food.